Hello, welcome to Cataclysm Quick Tip number 39, where we will be discussing butchering corpses. So the butchering process in Cataclysm has been updated recently. The changes I'm discussing have only been around for a few weeks, and this demonstration is being done per experimental version 7881. It is still under review and may go through some further adjustments or refinements, so we may need to update this at some point in the future, but here is the information you need to know how to butcher corpses under the current rules. So in the past, you were able to butcher corpses just by stepping onto the body and using Shift B. That would bring up the butchering option. I've got 4 wolf corpses on this space. If I select one of them, this is now the menu that you get. So we're going to discuss these menu items first, just in general. Then I'm going to talk about the various tools that you might need for butchering. And finally, we'll talk about dissecting, which is kind of a separate conversation. So you can use this first option, quick butchery, in a circumstance where you just want to hurry up, butcher the corpse so it can no longer be raised or resurrected like zombies do, and or if it's an animal, if you just want to quickly grab some meat and other items and take off. Now, this works pretty much essentially just like the old version of butchery. You just pick quick butchery, and as long as you've got a butchering tool with you, it'll quickly cut the corpse up. You'll get some meat and some other components from it, but you'll only get about 25% roughly of what you could get if you did a full butchering. So it's a quick and fast method of getting some of the meat and other items, but it's much, much less efficient. So that is one choice. The next one is full butchery, and as you can see from the description, it says this technique is used to properly butcher a corpse and requires a rope and a tree or a butchering rack, also a flat surface, for example a table, leather tarp, etc., and good tools. And tools meaning the butchering tools. Yields are plentiful and varied, but it is time consuming. So full butchery is how you get the full resources of meat and offal and stomach and all of the other components, hides and so on. That's going to give you the best results, but it does take longer and it requires more tools to do. Now, as part of the butchery process, you have a few other choices. There is field dressing the corpse. Now, this is, as it says, a technique that involves removing the internal organs and viscera to protect the corpse from rotting from inside. Yields the internal organs, carcass will be lighter and will stay fresh longer. Can be combined with other methods for better effects. So what they mean by this is basically you're going to open up the animal, remove the internal organs that easily and quickly rot and may spoil the meat quicker. So by field dressing it, you're going to remove all that. You'll be left with a new version of the corpse that is actually a little lighter than the version that has everything contained in it. And you'll have a separate loot that you can take in regards to the stomach and the offal and some bones. So this can be helpful. It will allow you to both lighten the corpse so you can transport it easier back to your base if necessary, and it also provides a bonus to the rot timer. So basically, after you field dress a corpse, it will rot at about a 75% rate as compared to a normal 100% rot rate. So it'll actually stay fresh longer and allow you to wait a longer period of time before you actually butcher it and then get the meat. And I believe it also has an effect on the meat that results, and it will not be as far advanced on the timer scale. So you get a number of benefits by field dressing the corpse, but it is an extra step, takes a little bit extra time. Now, once you field dress the corpse, let's say it's a large animal, a moose or a bear, that weighs a lot and is very, very volume expensive. You can then quarter the corpse. So by this it means quartering a previously field-dressed corpse. You'll acquire 4 parts with reduced weight and volume. So basically it cuts that corpse that you field-dressed into 4 equal parts, which will make it easier for you to carry if you are limited in your carrying capacity volume-wise or weight-wise. So you might need to pack out one piece at a time back to your base or whatever reason you might have for it. But quartering will allow you to do that. Now this does destroy the skin, hide, pelt, etc. So if you're after those particular pieces, then you do not want to quarter the corpse. So that adds a few extra wrinkles to the process, and we'll kind of go over some details here in just a moment. The last option is dissecting a corpse, and this one's mentioned because this is now the only option to recover CBMs from corpses. So we'll show you some examples of that here in just a minute, but just realize if you're after the CBMs specifically, this is the option you must pick. You will never get any CBMs by using any of the other choices. Alright, so let's cancel out of there for a second. Let's go talk about some tools. So first off, we've got some of the cutting tools here. This is a hunting knife and a butcher's knife. These are the two I would recommend you would generally want to use. If you take a look at them, the butcher's knife has a level 25 butchering quality, and the hunting knife has a level 30 butchering quality. So these are generally the easiest to get a hold of, the butchering knife especially. Hunting knives are a little rarer, but if you can get one, that gives you 30 butchering quality, which is great. It's about the best you can get, barring some high-tech options. Alright, so in addition to that, we've got listed here a scalpel. The scalpel is necessary for the dissection process. Now, it doesn't have to be a scalpel specifically, you just need a tool with fine cutting quality. The higher the level, the better off you are. It'll improve your chances of successfully removing a CBM, the higher the number. So a scalpel is about the best you can get generally with 3 fine cutting, but as long as you have any tool with a fine cutting quality, you will be able to attempt to remove CBMs. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab these items, and let's talk about these next row here. So, in order to butcher a corpse in any method other than the quick butchering, you do need a flat, clean surface in order to set the cut meat on. So here's a few examples. This first one is a fiber mat, and you can create a fiber mat right there. It's very simple. It's tailoring, difficulty 0. Just needs some very basic parts, plant fiber and some withered plants, straw, willow bark, and so on. So not difficult at all to make, and it will count and be useful for butchering. Next, we have the leather tarp. Again, you can create one of these right there, leather tarp. It's a little more difficult. Tailoring, level 1. Takes a couple of tools and some sinew or thread, as well as some leather, fur, tanned hides, and so on. Again, not too difficult, and it's fairly volume light, 2.5 liters and 4.41 pounds. Alright, another option is the tourist table. Again, you can create this right there, tourist table. This is more of a metal variant of a table, so you use fabrication, difficulty 4, take some basic metalworking tools and some basic metal materials, none of which is too difficult to put together. So that is an option, and it is a foldable item. So you can see here, metal tourist table for off-road trips. It is folded for easy transportation and can be deployed as furniture. So we can just select it using the E key to examine it, and we can say yes to take it down, and there is the tourist table in its folded version. It is 25 liters of volume and 13 pounds, so I won't say that it's light and easy to transport, but if you could throw it in your vehicle when you go out on your hunting trip, then grab it out of the vehicle and hike it over to wherever your game is that you're trying to field dress or butcher, then this can be used for that purpose. And then you can just pick it up and then deploy it again wherever you need it. Alright, next up, you need an elevated, or a way to elevate the meat, and that's done through a couple of options. You can either use butchering racks. Here we have the normal wooden butchering rack that's done through the construction menu. That's done right here via the construction menu, build butchering rack. It's not very difficult. It takes a couple of minor skills, so Fab 1, Survival 3, and a couple of minor tools, cutting and wood sawing, as well as some fairly simple materials. Long sticks, which you can easily get just by smashing young trees, short rope or long strings, pointy sticks, and so on. So, not too tough put together, but it does take 45 minutes, and it is like a piece of furniture. So it's there and it's built, and you can't move it, but you can disassemble it. Another alternative is a metal variant right here. This is the metal butchering rack. This is something you can actually create. So if we come here and look up rack, right there is the metal butchering rack. It's Fab 4, fabrication difficulty 4, and it does take some fairly advanced metalworking ability, so you need an anvil and most of the other metalworking tools, as well as some general raw materials. These aren't too tough to get a hold of. If you've already got an anvil and these other tools, you probably have access to this without too much difficulty. So that'll give you the metal butchering rack. Now this is portable as well, so you can select it, say yes, and it takes it down, folds it up, and it is 10 liters and 11 pounds. But it is an option you can use, and then you can redeploy it as needed wherever you go. Now finally, if you don't have access to these for whatever reason, you can, in substitution of that method, use a long rope and a tree. Now it is important that you realize it's a long rope necessary, not a short rope like you get from standard seatbelts. You need a long rope. So There are variants of seat belts that will give you a long rope, or you can craft one out of small ropes and so on, but it's important to know the difference. Short rope will not work. But as long as you've got a long rope in your inventory and you've got a tree near you, you will be able to butcher the corpse as if you had access to a butchering rack. Alright, so let's get into some specifics real quick. So I've got some wolf corpses here, and let's go ahead and get some butchering done. So I'm going to use the butchering rack here. Now, another important thing that is different from standard tools is that for these, kind of like the charcoal kiln, you actually have to put the corpse on the rack specifically. It's not a matter of a range effect for a tool. So I can't butcher over here. If I try to butcher this right now and say full butchery, I get a message, you need to suspend this corpse to butcher it. You have a rope to lift the corpse, but there is no tree nearby. So I've got a rope in my inventory, but I'm not close enough to the tree, and or the corpse is not in the same space as a butchering rack. So if I either move the corpse closer to the tree or move the corpse up onto the butchering rack, then I will be able to do the full butcher. So let's go ahead and move one of these. So we'll say one corpse, move up onto that same space. Then I will tell it to butcher again. I'm going to do a full butchering. I'm not going to go to any of these alternates yet. And time will pass. And you can see the messages here that we just harvested a whole bunch of stuff. And we've got 19 raw offal, 109 chunks of meat, 1 chunk of fat, 1 raw pelt, 1 stomach, 60 sinew, and 8 bones. So, really good returns with these changes. There is generally a large increase in the amount of meat that you're going to get if you are able to do a full butchering. So it is recommended if you need food that you actually take the time to put together the tools you need to get a full butchering done. I'm going to move all of this stuff out of the way up here for a second. And let's move a different corpse up. This time we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to do a field dressing first. And blood splatters all over the place. That's pretty normal for this part of the process. And then if we take a look at what we got, you'll notice that we don't have any meat. We still have a wolf carcass. And this wolf carcass weighs 134 pounds. This is in comparison to these other wolf carcasses that weigh 179 pounds. So the weight is basically all of this taken out of the body. So now you could haul just the wolf carcass back to your base, to the butchering area that you need, and it's going to weigh less, so be easier to transport, and it also is going to get the benefit of the rot timer reduction. So now that we've got the field dressing done, we can actually quarter the corpse as well. So let's go ahead and tell it to do that. And then take a look. Now we have 4 quartered wolf carcasses. Each one is only 33 pounds and only 15 volume. So if you're volume limited, this may give you the ability to haul 1 or 2 pieces at a time back to wherever you need it to go. Now, whether you field, whether you do the field option to butcher it initially and then do the quartering, you're going to get the same result when you finally get down to actually butchering. So if we say to butcher everything, it'll go through and butcher each of the 4 pieces, and you can see the returns. We got 32, 32, 32, and 32. So that roughly equals what we got from the full butchering here. There is some variance based on skill and some random factor in the tool and so on, so it won't be exactly the same every time. But we now have all of that meat available. Let's go ahead and move that out of here. Down there. Whoops, wrong direction. Let's move it this way. Okay, so let's go ahead and move one more corpse up here. And let's do a quick butcher just so you can see the difference. So here's the quick butcher. So we just really quick smash it up. We only got 27 meat total. So that's a huge difference in the output. But if all you need is some fast meat, you don't have time to get all the butchering stuff set up and so on, feel free to take advantage of this. You still get the pelt and the stomach and the offal and so on. Assuming you have a good enough tool and high enough skill. It is somewhat randomized, so at low skill and low tool qualities, you may not see the pelt or some of these other pieces. But you will get some quantity of the meat that is available, so that should help you quite a bit. Alright, so let's check one more thing. So we've talked about the quick butchery. That you can just do without any other special conditions, as long as you have any kind of a butchering tool to cut up the meat. 25% return. Full butchery is by far the best one to do if you're after long-term meat supplies and a return of all the other components. Field dressing is mainly to improve the timer function so it rots slower and will also make the corpse lighter for you to carry back to your base. Quartering the corpse just cuts the field-dressed corpse into 4 pieces to make it, again, easier to transport. And now, finally, let's talk about dissecting corpses. So, in the past, when you wanted to retrieve a CBM from a zombie that has CBMs, like shocker zombies, for example, or bio-operators, then you would kill the zombie, butcher the corpse, and it would just use your survival skill and your butchering tool to attempt to retrieve the CBMs. A couple things have changed. Now, you still need to stand on the corpse and use the butcher command, but then you must select the dissect option if you want to retrieve the CBMs. You will not get any meat or any of the other components. It totally destroys the body when you do this, which is not usually an issue. You don't usually want too much else off of a zombie that's going to give you CBMs. But just be aware that you're going to completely destroy the corpse when you do it. And then the other important change is it no longer uses survival skill. The change now is it's going to primarily use your first aid skill, your knowledge of the human body in order to retrieve those items, as well as it uses the fine cutting tool, and that's where the scalpel comes in handy, or an X-Acto knife, and so on. So you want to make sure you've got a fine cutting tool of the highest quality you can find, and you want to raise your first aid skill as much as possible in order to dissect a corpse properly. So let's spawn in a corpse, or a monster. So we'll spawn in a bio-operator, and we'll kill the bio-operator, and then we will select to butcher, and then to dissect. It does take quite a long time, so you'll see some time pass. I think it's like half an hour, 45 minutes. I forgot to look up before I did that. But you can see that we just got a repair nanobot CBM and a power storage CBM. So bio-operators always have 2 CBMs, and they're generally very high quality CBMs. You have much better chance of getting good CBMs out of bio-operators. Check out my other quick tip or university series on butchering in the past, where I explain all about shock zombies and bio-operators and so on. But we got 2 really good CBMs. Power storage is pretty much standard. Mark II, that's the really good storage, and then repair nanobots. So, as I said, it's important to know that it now uses the first aid skill. You want to have that as high as possible, and then you also want to use a tool that has the highest fine cutting quality that you can find. That will improve your chances to successfully retrieve those CBMs. And that about covers it. I think that's all the information you should need to understand the new butchering system, as well as most of the common tools that are going to be required to do it successfully. Hopefully you found the information helpful. As always, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Hit that like button to improve the YouTube metrics so we can get some more traffic and some more viewership. And let me know if you have any suggestions for future episodes. Have a great day and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.